acquainted. I'm not seeing what I expected to see. Okay. Yep. Welcome to regular board meeting number 12. So I did want to start our meeting with a congratulations and a huge thank you. Together, we made it to today. It's June 23rd. 3 months ago, we didn't know where we'd be or what June 23rd might look like. So I'm glad you're here. And congratulations. We didn't just make it, we really rocked it. So while the world has been shaken and Lakeshore has shown that we are rock solid when we pull together as a community. So take a breath, pat yourself on the back, and know how much you're all appreciated. And with that, if you would stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, Mrs. Munger, can we get roll call, please?
All are present.
All right. Item number 4 is audience participation, and I have been told that there were no submissions for audience participation, so we'll jump to item number 5, Superintendent's Report. Dr. DePonio.
Just to bring the board up to a number of items that are going on, things popping with any questions that you might have. First, all of our exchange students have returned.
All of our exchange students have returned.
I think in addition to the many stressful things
going on here,
having those four kids, in that isolated situation at the dormitory, that was our biggest concern, in their safety and making sure that we were able to. Karen Jones did nothing short of remarkable work with her team and the custodians and food service. But 2 days ago was the last group of students that traveled, and then tomorrow there are 5 remaining adults. The dormitories will be empty. Thank goodness. Just to touch on a number occurring right now. What we're looking at for return to classrooms. The financial picture, and of course we'll hear some regarding. Gotcha. Thank you.
Okay. Better? Good. So we're just working off of your.
Right.
Okay. Sorry. So, Pete will go through the budget, and there's a lot of variables that still, we won't know for weeks in regards to exactly what things are going to look like. But the financial picture is looking better than what we anticipated. We know that there's a $1 billion shortfall this year. There's 1.3 next year, I think, is what is projected. There's talk early on of a massive cut to public education. It seems as though that is not something that the Michigan legislature is interested in taking on. The Republicans put forth their plan today that called for in excess of $1 billion worth of funding. It included $800 per pupil for PPE protection, $500 payment hazard pay for teaching staff, some flexibility in terms of remote learning, a variety of things that I think is a step in the right direction. Of course, we have to wait and see where that money comes from.
Was that this was at the state level?
Correct. Yeah. So that was Michigan Republicans in the House and the Senate. We have yet to see what the Democrats are going to put forth and what the governor is going to put forth. But it's definitely better than a first show of something that's a massive cut. But we'll see how everything shakes out. The governor has the Return to Learning Council, which is represented in Macomb County by Justin Mahalik. He's the Assistant Superintendent for Special Education. We get weekly updates on what's going on with that. And we expect to hear from that learning task force the results of those recommendations at the end of this month. That's going to give us a real good idea of exactly what we're looking at in terms of state requirements for reopening. In our discussions with the county, there's already massive purchasing for PPE items, sanitizing items for all county schools, masks, gloves, everything that we know has been short during this pandemic. The county has already made preparations to make mass purchases and then distribute that to member districts. So we're feeling confident that we will be well prepared. And of course, Lakeshore has already made a variety of purchases as well for things that we think are going to be specific to our needs. So that's kind of at the state and county level. And then that kind of leads us to, Lakeshore's movement towards reopening. And so beginning next week, and this has been shared on our website and through social media, beginning next week, I'm going to have weekly discussions with the community about what their needs are. And that includes families, students, and our staff in order to be safe, to feel safe, and return to school. Dr. Lewis sent out a survey early on with the closure. And, George, I'm going to ask you to kind of jump in a little bit on this, but in essence, the responses that we got mirror everything that you see, in the news. We have a portion of our population that are not going to feel safe until the virus is either gone or there's a vaccine. We have a portion of our population that are ready to return immediately with life as it used to be. And then there's a large portion that, are somewhere in between those two aspects. I've spoken with a number of families to this point as well that they've echoed those same exact sentiments. We want to get back. We want school to be as it used to be. We're not going to be feeling safe until there's a vaccine, so we won't be ready to come back. And then again, everything in between. George, you want to talk a little bit about that survey and the results that you got from that?
No, you characterized it really well. We have about 1 in 5 of our parents who are saying that they're not very perception from folks. And then we have about 40% that are in the middle. And there's a large number that are ready to come back under any circumstances. So we'll be taking those into consideration.
And so with this, Lakeshore will be prepared to respond accordingly to what our families' needs are. Obviously we want to return in a safe environment that protects our staff, protects our students, and do so in a responsible fashion that adheres to the compliance that we will be obligated to comply to. We will be accommodating to families that will not be ready for their children to return. As many of you may be aware, and you probably remember, Lakeshore was granted a seat time waiver back in 2014 when we moved some of our high school courses to online courses. So we've had the capacity to deliver 100% online for grades 6 through 12 for the past several years. And we've been doing it sparingly because most people have not wanted to do that. There's specialists that are going to be launching, and of course there's a variety of for-profit companies out there that offer tutors. And so that's not something that's new to Lakeshore. We've done it for students. For those that's the right fit, we'll continue to have that available to them. And we're looking at what that's going to look like grades K through 5, if that's what families want to do. So basically what we're saying there is whether it's 100% online or it's 100% face-to-face, or there's some, we'll continue to meet the needs of our families until we get through this period of time. And of course, the safety measure for our students and staff are obviously going to be of the most critical component. We want to make sure that when kids are returning, when staff is returning, that they're returning to a safe environment. So I know there's going to be a lot of questions about masks. Will kids have to wear them? Will kids not have to wear them? The county, in preparation for a belief that they might be required, has purchased over 7 million masks. 2/3 are adult size, 1/3 pediatric size masks, and those will be distributed to the districts. So if that's something that is required, and obviously we're talking about things that are in accordance with CDC recommendations and state of Michigan requiring for items like masks, sanitizing of the buildings, gloves, what's going to be the best fever-free and things of that nature. So we'll continue to work with the Macomb County Health Department, receive the best information so that when kids arrive and staff arrives, that they're arriving safe, arriving to a place that's going to best guarantee their health. And then finally, part of these discussions will involve issues of equity, inclusion, and justice. I'm proud of the work that Lakeshore has done over the past several years in making a foundation of our vision and values, things that are related to items such as inclusion, diversity, integrity, hallmarks of what we want for our community. And we'll always stand in support of our students and community members that are marginalized by racism and injustice. Again, I'm proud of the work that we've done and the commitment that's been made, guiding principles that are anchored in those key elements and things that you see everywhere. But in spite of that, I know that there's always work to be done, that we can always improve upon that. And it always begins with dialogue. It always begins with conversation, honest conversation. And so we want to make sure that as we move forward with reopening our schools, that we're not just addressing these issues of health and safety, that we're also addressing the items that we see so prevalent in society today. And so, that will be something that obviously is critical to these conversations. These meetings, as you'll find on social media and on our website, they all take place over at the Pavilion on Masonic. We will adhere to CDC recommendations of social gatherings no more than 100 outside. We're currently in phase 4. They will be going on all summer, so people don't feel like they have to get there immediately. If there's other plans, please, if you're going up north, go up north. We'll be there the next week. And just like we've done with some of our other things, if families want to host these discussions, you got 3 or 4 families that you're close with, you want to have this discussion on your front yard, tell me the time and place, and we'll be by to have these discussions and pick people's brains and listen and hear and what certain needs are. So I think that kind of wraps up, what I would report to the board here. We've got a lot of work to do between now and September, and we're going to make sure that every day we're rolling up our sleeves and we'll be ready for whatever we have to face. I think we have the right people. I know we have the right people. I know we have the right team, and it's certainly led by the right board. So with that, I'll take any questions that you might have.
I think you mentioned at the last meeting, you did a survey with the teachers and the whole staff.
We surveyed the staff,
You did with the teachers, right?
with the parents.
Oh, just with the parents? Oh, okay, okay. Are we gonna survey the whole staff and see how they're feeling about
Really awaiting recommendations from the governor's committee, which will be released on the 30th of June. And at that point, we would like to see some feedback there. We've received a lot of informal feedback from teachers, and principals have been gathering that all the way through.
recently or just when this
Just
was?
throughout the entire process, touch with the bargaining unit presidents and keeping them abreast of what our plans will be moving forward. I know, Dr. DePonio, you have some community meetings that are going to be open community meetings scheduled And we look to pull staff together as part of the reopening plan no later than the middle of July.
And so with these community meetings, obviously part of the Violet community is the Violet staff.
Right.
And part of the Lakeshore High School community is the Lakeshore High School staff. So I would encourage anyone that wants to sit down and talk about these things to certainly join us on those particular evenings. And again, if people aren't feeling safe being in that large of a group, although we will, require 6 feet of distance and we'll be holding these meetings outside, we're happy to accommodate other schedules and other locations.
And basically, the information is going to be the same regardless of what meeting they go to, correct? So in other words, like, I know there's like Masonic and I think Violet one day, Rogers and Kennedy another. The information is still the same. So if a parent has a child in 2 different schools, they don't have to necessarily attend
not
both.
necessarily.
Basically, it's the same.
Correct.
Different questions.
That really is going to be the key. I mean, each building, you're going to have different people and they're going to have different perspectives. And we can, I've mentioned 1,000 times that we're collectively smarter than we are individually. So by having everybody involved and getting different viewpoints on these things. Now, obviously, we're going to be required. There will be compliance issues, just like if we were discussing school lunches, everyone might have an opinion on school lunches.
Joe, let me interrupt you.
Yes.
There apparently is some cutting in and out, so I'm going to turn off my mic and ask you to use your mic.
Okay.
All right. Got it. Okay. So with like school lunches, a lot of people have different opinions on school lunches. And so there's compliance issues that we have to adhere to. By law, we're required to provide certain nutritional value to these meals. But within that scope, how can we make it best for Lakeshore? And so I anticipate the same thing will apply when it comes to the reopening of schools in the state of Michigan. There will be certain guidelines that we will be required to adhere to. What happens when there is a confirmed case of COVID at a particular school? What will happen? Will we be required to close down? Will we be required to do tracing of that student? Or will we work, obviously we'll work with the Macomb County Health Department in circumstances like that. But there's going to be a lot of guidance that will be given. But that won't cover everything that we want for Lakeshore. The learning experience that we want for kids, the environment that we want for kids, and how we make this best. And so with everything that we will attempt to do, the more opinions, the more thought, the more conversation, the better off we're going to be.
Joe, we've mentioned engaging the staff and engaging parents in the community. What's our strategy for directly engaging our students?
It'll be a very similar thing. We will encourage our students to be a part of those community gatherings. I would most definitely expect our students to be in those particular crowds. And if we find that they're not being a part of it, that they want to, I guess, let the adults have that conversation, then we'll probably designate certain evenings to be specifically for our students.
We could do like Snapchat, town hall. I don't know if we can do that on TikTok.
Tic-tac? Wow. Sound like an old man.
I barely use the Facebook.
The Facebook. Yeah, but obviously, having our students' voice involved is very, very important as well, for sure.
You said there is another parent survey going on soon, though?
We don't have one ready to launch, but we anticipate as soon as the governor's recommendations come out, that we will have a quick response to what it means, simplify, whatever the recommendations are, so that everyone understands how it impacts Lakeshore, and then gather some feedback on those items. And that'll just be the first step of this direction towards reopening. A lot of people are making plans for what September is going to look like. And unless they have a crystal ball that actually works, I'm not so certain that those plans are going to be anchored in the facts of what we're going to see coming out of the state. So, we have some good ideas on how we can advance things, but ultimately, we need to know what the state is going to require us to do.
All right.
And I just want to finally, to wrap this up, to say that I just can't thank the community and our staff and the board and our administration and our students. And it's been a very challenging 3 months, and I just can't imagine that Lakeshore could have handled this any better. It's been something to be very, very proud of. So if there's a silver lining to a very difficult situation, I think it's something that we should all be very proud of, which I know we are. So anyways.
You said 3 months, and I'm like, hasn't this been going on for a year?
I know, right?
Right? All right, and the switch mics are done.
Ross?
Okay.
Okay. All right, so we are going to move on to item number 6A, setting a date for our organizational meeting. And so I'm looking for a motion to approve Tuesday, July 7th, 2020 as the date for our semi-annual organizational meeting for the 2021 school year at 7:30 is our usual time. And there is a note that we will still be planning to have an online virtual meeting along with this minimal in-presence meeting. And the directions, of course, will get posted.
So moved. Sorry.
All right, motion by Mrs. DeLong, supported by Mr. Denzler. Any comments or questions? All right, roll call vote, Mrs. Munger, but be sure we mix this up, okay? Order.
Okay, I just followed the sheet. Just
Okay.
following the sheet. Mrs. Bartle?
Aye.
Mr. Ziegler?
Aye.
Mrs. Munger, aye. Mrs. DeLong?
Aye.
Mr. Kokotic?
Aye.
Mr. Conley?
Aye.
And Mr. Denzler?
Aye.
All right, see y'all back on the 7th. Consent agenda item 7A.
So moved.
Did you just lose your screen?
Oh, yeah, I was trying to get to the board packet and I
We'll
can't.
we'll pause if, okay.
Okay.
All right.
I'll support.
All right, so motion by Mr. Denzler, supported by Mrs. Munger, and this is where I see that it's like the same sequence. So Ms. Munger, if you could just mix them up.
I can see it all now.
Thanks for paying the electric bill, Joe. Appreciate it.
Oh, Mrs. Bartle?
Aye.
Mrs. DeLong?
Aye.
Mr. Ziegler?
Aye.
Mr. Denzler?
Aye.
Mr. Kokotic?
Aye.
Mr. Conley?
Aye.
Mrs. Munger, aye.
All right,
Coming up.
That's how I used to look at it.
okay. Personnel report, agenda item 6C, personnel report, Dr. Lewis.
Would you like me to turn on the microphone?
Yeah, I'll switch with you to keep it better. I'll turn.
My microphone is on.
All right, we will start again. Personnel report, item 6C. Move to accept the following personnel report. AFSCME Local 1217, move to accept the retirement of Joanna Schober, Kennedy Middle School cashier, after 27 years of service. Dawn Tarina, deli server at Kennedy Middle School, retirement effective June 12th after 22 years of service. Lakeshore Federation of Educational Secretaries, move to accept the retirement of Joanne Palazzolo, Maintenance Secretary, Maintenance Operations Department, effective at the end of the day, June 30th, 2020, after 32 years of service. Support.
All right, motion by Mrs. DeLong, supported by Mr. Denzler. Any comments or questions?
Are we replacing Joanne Palazzolo? That's a position that's going to be filled from within the unit. That particular position of maintenance secretary is going to be redistributed throughout essentially central office administrative staff.
Roll call vote, please.
Mrs. Munger, aye. Mr. Colling?
Aye.
Mr. Bakotic?
Aye.
Mr. Densler?
Aye.
Mr. Ziegler? Mrs. DeLong?
DeLong.
And Mrs. Bartle?
Aye.
I do just
All
wanna
right.
say-
I do just want to say I wish the best to Joanna, Dawn, and Joanne. And it always amazes me when we look at the number of years. We have 3 people retiring with 81 years of service between them. So that's absolutely a lot of experience, knowledge, and history that's going to be missing from Lakeshore Public Schools as we move forward. But thank you for your years of service. And as we've been sharing with our graduates, once a Shorian, always a Shorian. So best wishes in your retirement years, and we hope to continue to see you in some capacity.
Oh, I can't turn mine off.
All right. Tenure recognition, item 60, Dr. Lewis, and I'll turn
I'm
it
on
off.
still.
Move to approve the following individuals who have acquired tenure in compliance with the State of Michigan Teachers Tenure Act. At Rogers Elementary, Danielle Smith. At Kennedy Middle School, Amy Adamkevich. And at Lakeshore High School, Todd Kearney, Justin Fott, and Janice Radlick-Urung.
So moved.
Support. All right, motion by Mrs. Munger, support by.
Mrs. Munger, support by Mrs. DeLong, and another roll call vote,
Mrs.
please.
DeLong?
Mrs.
Mr.
DeLong.
Ziegler?
Mr. Ziegler.
Mr. Densler? Mr. Bakotic? Mr. Colling?
Aye.
Mrs. Munger, aye. And Mrs. Bartle?
Aye.
All right, it's unfortunate that we're not gathered together.
All right. It's unfortunate that we're not gathered together in one place like we usually are to recognize tenured teachers, but we congratulate you all the same. And we recognize and appreciate your staff, students, and staff. All right. 6E, LSFT contract extension, Dr. Lewis.
The Lakeshore Public School Board at Local 1465, effective immediately, but takes effect at the conclusion of this current contract, regarding a contract extension. We've been in negotiations with the teachers unit this school year. The Federation made a request that the contract be extended, and we're bringing that before you tonight.
So moved.
Support.
All right, motion by Mr. Densler, supported by Mr. Colling. Any comments or questions?
So it says that we've approved a letter of agreement that's in this context effectively the same as the teachers agreed to ratify the contract, correct?
That is correct. The teachers voted overwhelmingly to approve this contract extension yesterday. So yes, this serves as just an extension of the current contract.
So all employees that are currently covered by this contract on steps will progress to the next step for the previous.
Yes, all teachers that have a scheduled step will move forward on the salary schedule.
Thank you. Did we make any contractual adjustments, changes to language or policy?
No, given the circumstances, we continue to work with the Federation mutually for issues that might arise that this was the priority. But we're currently working on developing the schedule at Kennedy Middle School and Lakeshore High School. So we'll continue to work on that.
Thank you.
All right. Ms. Munger.
Mr. Ziegler?
Aye.
Mr. Densler?
Aye.
Mr. Bakotic?
Aye.
Mr. Colling?
Aye.
Mrs. Munger, aye. Mrs. Bartle?
Aye.
And Mrs. DeLong?
Lakeshore Federation of Teachers President Fred Jeheen, who of course is not able to be with us tonight, but is joining us online, would like to extend his appreciation to the board on behalf of all of our teachers for extending their contract.
All right. And I had the same quick note, just to thank you to everybody that was on the negotiating teams for helping us move forward with that item.
Okay.
Okay. Agenda item 6F, non-unit contract renewal, Dr. Lewis.
Annually, the Department of Labor Board to extend contracts for personnel who are exempt non-unit members. That would typically be are principals, central office administrators, directors. So we recommend that you move to approve the extension of certain administrative support employee contracts as recommended by the Department of Employee Services.
So moved.
Support.
All right, moved by Mrs. DeLong, supported by Mr. Conley. Any questions, comments?
Does this impact for our admin that are on the admin step schedule? They'll be progressing to their next step next year?
That is correct. We made a commitment with all groups to honor that step movement prior to the next school year. And that has been worked into the budget by Mr. Baselli. Mr. Baselli. Thank you.
All right, Ms. Munger.
Mr. Wokodick?
Mr. Kodak?
Mr. Cowling?
Mr. Conley?
Mrs. Munger, aye. Mrs. Bartle?
Aye.
Mrs. DeLong? Mr. Ziegler? And Mr. Denzler? I was like, did I start with you? Did I end with? I don't remember.
We're just gonna go
I
around the room.
There we go.
All right, and I would just like to say thank you to our administrative team. We've had a leadership situation like I'm sure nobody ever planned for in their careers, and our leadership team has really served us well, so thank you. Okay. Agenda item 6G, opening the public hearing officially with a gavel. Opening the public hearing on truth and taxation. And I have been told that there were no public inquiries. So if, can I just get a verification from Brian and Andrew that there hasn't been anybody last minute to join in the public hearing? Okay, confirm that there are none. So we will, I'm sorry, we actually needed to move to do that public hearing. Thanks for catching me, guys. Let's backtrack a minute. All right, Mr. Cowling and Mrs. DeLong, and we'll do a vote to open.
Mr. Kodak?
Aye.
Mr. Conley?
Aye.
Mrs. Munger, aye. Mrs. Bartle?
Aye.
Mrs. DeLong?
Aye.
Mr. Ziegler?
Aye.
Mr. Denzler?
You betcha.
Okay, so we'll just repeat that the hearing is open. We've confirmed that there are no participants, and so we will close that hearing and move on to agenda item 6H, tax rate request. Mr. Baselli. Yeah, you go ahead and I'm going to mute on my side.
Okay, this is the 2020 tax rate request form, the Form L4029. Based on the information provided by the county, the operating millage for 2020 will be set at 17.792 mils. Now, that's less than your normal 18 mils because for the first time here, we're having a Headley millage reduction fraction. So instead of 18, it's going to be 17.792, and this is for your business and commercial property. In terms of the debt mills, that stays the same at 7 mils, and that continues from year to year. The revenue generated by the 17.792 mils will be about 2.2 million in the general fund. Because of the rollback, that's about 20,000 less than you normally would have. So moving forward, our millage is up for renewal in 2024. We could potentially move that up to mitigate the Headley reduction, but that's a decision for future meetings. The 7 mills on the debt side creates $4.1 million in revenue for the debt mills to make their principal and interest payments on the bond issues. And these were approved by voters in previous years. So the recommendation is to approve the 2020 tax rate millage request form moving forward.
So moved.
Support.
All right, motion by Mr. Denzler, supported by Mr. Cowling. Anybody with comments or questions?
Munger.
All right, Ms. Munger.
Mr. Conley?
Aye.
Mr. Denzler? Mr. Ziegler?
Aye.
Mrs. DeLong? Kodak? Aye. Mrs. Bartle?
Aye.
And Mrs. Munger, aye.
All right,
Moving along.
moving along. Agenda item 6I, approve 1-year extension to the food service
Okay,
contract.
so,
Again, Mr.
He
Baselli.
requires the district to renew its food service contract annually. As part of the process, the district provides MD with financial data for the review. The MD approves it and the board has to approve it subsequently. As you know, last year we bid out the food service management contract and Chartwell's went out on the bid. So this is year one of potentially 4 renewal years. It's a standard contract required by MD annually. All contract terms approved by MDE. Just major highlight is a 1% increase in the management fee and administrative fees, which is reasonable considering the CPI Consumer Price Index was 3.1% in December 2019. Food Service Fund has made money the last couple of years. This year was a little adversely affected because of COVID-19, hurt with a la carte sales and school lunch sales, but it's still on a good, healthy fund balance situation moving forward. So the recommendation is to approve a 1-year extension of the food service management contract with Chartwell's for 2020-2021.
Support.
All right, motion by Mr. Collins, supported by Ms. Munger. Anybody with comments or questions?
Are we getting any help for the loss of money?
Well, there's unanticipated school closure revenue that came in for the meals that we sent out to help mitigate some of that. But the problem is the a la carte sales. You can't really replace or cater the revenue. Those are things that are a little bit separate from that. So moving forward, though, next year will be more of a normal year. So we expect we're going to make money out of that.
My question, were we expecting like a
normal year's expenditure? I'd assume we're going to have some portion of our population that isn't going to be in the building at all times. So how are we anticipating that will affect?
That's something that's going to be determined at the that's something that 2 days in, 2 days out. That's still
2 days in, 2 days out. That's still be.
All right, Mrs. Munger.
Aye. Mrs. Bartle.
Aye.
Mrs. Munger. Aye. Mr. Collins.
Aye.
Mr. Kokotic.
Aye.
Mr. Dunsler.
Aye.
Mr. Ziegler.
Aye.
Mrs. Gallant. Aye.
All right, agenda item 6J, final budget amendments for 1920. Again, Mr. Caselli.
This is the 2019 June amendment, last amendment of the last year. This will be in column 4 in the purple shaded area. That's voting on this agenda. Basically, the big picture wise, so if you look toward the bottom of column 4, excess of revenues over expenditures, we're looking at a loss of $301,527. That's an improvement over our February amendment of $408,951. Not a major change, but $107,000 is still a good direction to go with. Main reasons for that improvement, we had some savings from some of the COVID shutdown situations with utilities and truncated sports seasons, extra pays and things like that. We did have some offsetting losses in revenues for the SAC program, which we had to shut down, the athletic gate receipts and so forth. But at the end of the day, we're looking at a fund balance percentage of 11.5, which is still very healthy compared to what we've had. It's still double digits, and it's still there to weather whatever storms we have coming next year. We started out the year budgeting a loss of $1 million. That was because we had counted out the exchange students. We didn't know at the time whether they'd be included in the foundation allowance. So that was $640,000 to the good. And we were able to stem the tide in terms of losing general ed students. Last year we lost 110. This year was only 38. So it was a big difference. 2 years ago it was 56. So we're hopefully moderating here. But 11.5% is a solid fund balance at the end of the year. If we take into consideration the 3 years worth of student count losses of 204 times our foundation allowance, we've lost about $1.7 million in state aid revenue. And we've gotten about half of that reimbursed through these moderate foundation allowance increases. But in the meantime, we've had compensation increases for pretty much all employees. We've had retirement increases, healthcare increases, and just cost of living increases. So the fact that we're still 11.5% from being at 12.7 is pretty impressive. And we've done that through right sizing, a transition to zero-based budgeting, although we're not there yet. We're working toward it, and just proper fiscal oversight. So we're in good position, I think, more than other districts to weather whatever storm is coming next year or the future for now.
I'm back on. Okay, and I would say that we've done that based on a lot of hard work and input, so thank you. All right, can we get a motion?
So moved.
That's a tie. Tie goes to Mrs. DeLong. Support, Mr. Densler?
Sure thing.
All right, supported by Mr. Densler. Anybody with questions or comments?
I know you explained.
Yeah, I know you explained the numbers. I still think you're a wizard.
Give us a
because
big number.
You give us a big number and it's a lot less. I think you're a token character back there waving. But in reality, thank you for the good explanation and the hard work.
It's the hard work.
I mean, it's the hard work of the administration and the hard work of our faculty that's,
Ensuring that we're providing an experience.
ensuring that we're providing an experience that brought us good enrollment numbers. It's the advocacy of our central office staff, of you, Joe, working with, Kevin, a lot of our local leaders on the exchange student per pupil. And so,
It's great.
it's great. It's great work that we're able to maintain a healthy fund balance even in the midst of declining. And pizza wizard.
All right, with that, Mrs. Munger.
Mr. McCoy?
Aye.
Mr. Conley?
Aye.
Mr. Densler?
Aye.
Mrs. Bartle?
Aye.
Mr. Ziegler?
Aye.
Mrs. Munger? Aye. And Mrs. DeLong?
Aye.
All right, agenda item 6K, budget adoption. Again, Mr. Basili.
All right, so this is our 2020-21 original budget. So you'll be looking at column 5 in orange. As we go toward the bottom, we discussed this earlier, that our excess of revenues over expenditures would be a loss, net loss of, say, the private sector of $1.9 million. Now, that's based on some major budget assumptions, which we have discussed, and which will go through. The issue right now, as Joe mentioned earlier, we're looking at $2.5 to $3 billion shortfall in school aid fund through September of 2021. So the issue is how much of a cut we will get in foundation allowance, if any. There's been different scenarios drawn out by a lot of different districts, going from a loss of 100 per student to a loss of 1,000. Lately, it's been coming down closer, I think, to what we have, which is $500 per student. But again, that can change radically. On August 15th will be the revenue estimating conference in Lansing, and that's likely where we'll get the final number. Or we could get it today or tomorrow. I mean, this is a so if it comes today and throws out the window, rip it up and start. That's the third highest in the country.
Okay, am I on? Okay. Start all over again? No. Anyways, the second major assumption was a safe harbor for school count. So as we mentioned before, there's a growing consensus in Lansing that we should have a safe harbor for using the greater fall of 2019 or fall of 2020 student count. Now, in our case, that's a big benefit because we're counting on not having the exchange program next year. It's not definite, but if that's the case, then we will not lose 75 students for the international program. That equates to $640,000. So that's a big plus. The third assumption was that we will not have an exchange program. Again, that small possibility we'll get it back, but that equates to an $850,000 loss because that transfer we get from the international program. So that's the tuition portion, the $12,000 that we get for each student. Now, on the positive side, our major assumption is the 1.9 mil enhanced millage. So if you look at your local source revenue, you'll see in the far right, that's an increase of 1.6 million. 1.5 million is your enhancement mills. Now, a side note to that, when you get your tax bills, the 1.9 will actually be 1.8821 because there's a heavily rollback at the county level for that too. So that's something we can't control. We can't go out to vote for that. That's done by the MISD. We also have in our major assumption, which will be coming to fruition, is the employee step increase for all groups, which is about 1.3 million. And that includes the MEPSR's rate increase of 7%. We also have retirements resignations of about 750,000. As of now, that could very well increase by September 1st as we get more retirements that we may not fill. And another major assumption is the Federal CARES Act revenue. So far, it's 245,000 for us. That may increase as we get more legislation coming out of Washington, although there is a growing consensus that federal government's bankrupt, 30 trillion in debt. So we don't know. There's a big push to keep it specific to COVID, to like masks and those kind of things are specific to reopenings versus us getting more revenue. But that's a wild card. We'll have to wait and see. Also, there's the MEPSR's increase, which we just talked about, of 7% that's baked in here. The healthcare caps went up 3.3%, so that's about $150,000 hit. Previous year was up 1.9%. And we're also assuming a food service transfer of $50,000 for indirect cost reimbursement. In addition to that, we have wild cards. So that's, the first three are in flux. The last 7 that I gave you were pretty much set, but there are 3 wild cards. The first one's the August revenue estimating conference that I just talked about. That's the major wild card. So if that goes to 0, we're in great shape. If it goes to 1,000, we've got issues. So we'll intervene if it gets to a situation where it's 1,000 or something like that. The student count safe harbor is another wild card. Even though it looks good, we don't know for sure, not guaranteed. So that's $640,000. The exchange program could come back, so that'd be a huge influx of $850,000. So that could change. And the COVID-19 reopen costs, which we had studies before that showed a district our size of $1.7 million in costs. But we're talking about on the federal side or the state side giving $800 per pupil. That would pretty much offset that. But that's a wild card too. We have no idea how much that's going to cost the district. And as I said, additional federal stimulus money could help the picture too for next year. And also, we don't know about the SAC program or athletic year receipts. So those are other wild cards that we're dealing with. Overall, the $1.9 million loss, if it gets to that, or if it gets to 1.5 or 1.3, we can absorb it for 1 year. I mean, we're good financially to take the hit. As you see, at the end of the day, the fund balance is 6.4%, which is at least above 5%. I mean, it's not where we want to be, but in light of what we'd be dealing with, it's pretty, it's sustainable. The issue would be moving forward, as we talked about, because your 1.9 or 1.5, whatever, becomes your new normal going forward. So if we did actually lose that, we would have to have intervention to reduce that going forward, because even if you were to freeze wages, you'd still be at a loss of $1.9 million. So we would have to have intervention, and we're flexible and ready to pivot and move and deal with all this. And we also, another key item here is simply the exchange program we talked about for years, how that transfer has kind of masked our operational deficit in the general fund. So here we see an effect of that, but hopefully it'll be a 1-year loss if this does happen, and we will get it back in future years. And the last thing I guess we have to hope for is the letter V, a V-shaped economic recovery. That would help. We go down and we come right back up. Same with the cut, whatever we have, hopefully if it's 500 or 300, we go down and come right back up, unlike in 2012 where we went down 470 and then it took 8 years to get back up in a long L. So
just wave your magic wand in it.
B, just B. So otherwise, there's no other fluctuations. So I invite any questions.
All right, let's start with the motion.
So moved.
Support.
All right, Mrs. DeLong and Mr. Denzler. Now we can ask Pete questions. Nobody? It was a good explanation. It's a lot of information. And as I sit here with a business
From a family that owns a business, budgeting in a school environment is unlike anything. And
we always talk about the real world, right? People talk about education and then the real world like it's something different. Yeah, when you're budgeting in your business and you have a lot more control over your revenue generation than you do in our environment. So thank you for all that. It's a lot of information. I know it's complicated. It's a lot of work. And we continue to do the best we can with what we have and knowing that we don't necessarily get to decide what we're going to have.
All right.
All right, unless anybody else has a comment, Mrs. Munger.
Mrs. Munger. Mrs. Munger. Aye. Mrs. DeLong. Aye. Mr. Ziegler.
Aye.
Mr. Bocote.
Aye.
Mr. Colleen.
Aye.
Mr. Densler.
Aye.
Mrs. Bartle.
Aye. All right, we are at a blank on my screen. We are at item 7A, board member commentary. Mrs. DeLong. Not on these past couple agendas, just because of the complexity of online.
Just making sure.
But yep, thank you.
So do I unmute my?
Yeah, I will mute and you may unmute.
I'm still unmuted. Okay, I believe I'm unmuted. Good evening, everyone. I was able to participate in one of the mobile graduations, and it was quite the experience. I'd have to say, if I were a parent of a graduate, hearing that bus come down playing Pomp and Circumstance, I probably would have burst into tears. So I think it was very well received. I have not heard anything negative about it. It's great. I think we might have started a new trend. It seems like parents really like that, no matter what the circumstance. So I wish I could have participated in more, but that was really, really great. And I mean, now that school's done, I know it's more of a relief for parents, working parents. And I just hope everybody can enjoy the summer and not stress too much about what's going to be. What's going to be is going to be. We'll make this work, no matter what the state tells us we have to do. So I hope everybody enjoys their summer.
All right, Mr. Densler, you can mute and unmute. Oh, I'm sorry, I did it twice to Kurt.
All right, I don't have a whole lot. Granted, that's never stopped me from talking endlessly before, but yeah, just continued appreciation for the hard work. It really, Joe, when you said that it's been 3 months, I was like, it really feels like it's been a year since this started. So I'm appreciative for all of our hardworking staff. Appreciative for our teachers and working with us on the contract extension and for this board and this leadership team to be able to do that. Obviously we're facing some, a potential decent sized budget loss, nothing that we can't weather, but there are districts out there that might want to prioritize the pocketbook over the staff, and we're trying to be a leadership team that prioritizes our staff and considers it a worthwhile investment. I personally had more optimism that the enhancement millage was going to allow us to invest a little bit more strategically in our staff and in our district. And while I am certainly disappointed that we can't do that, I am grateful for those funds to allow us to at least continue on par with where we've been previously. So thank you to the community for that. Congratulations to our teachers who received tenure, and to our retirees. I wish you well. And I think that's all that I have. So I hope people continue to stay safe and stay distant, and we'll talk to you later.
All right, Josh, mute. Michael,
There you go. Okay, so I want to start off again congratulating our retirees, Joanna, Dawn, and Joan. It's impressive, again, like Sharon mentioned, the number of years that they've served. It definitely speaks to the community that we have in our schools. And I'm sure Kennedy Middle School cafeteria will be a much, different place without without Joanna and Dawn there next year when we reopen again, hopefully. And also congratulations to the teachers on tenure. I'm sure that's quite an experience for a teacher to reach that milestone, and we're proud to have those teachers as part of our staff. And also want to say it's been quite an experience, like Josh and everybody else has said. This year is unlike any we've probably ever experienced. Hopefully we never have to go through it again or anything like it again. But, we were really in an interesting position. I think the biggest takeaway I've had from talking with other people in teaching positions and in other school districts is that, we had these Chromebooks, this tool that these kids could use to stay connected with their teachers. That was a big help, and a huge kind of leg up for us, kind of to hit the ground running when everybody had to change to doing this at home. So we've made it to the end of the year. It's been quite a ride, and hopefully we have some time to catch our breath and plan out so that we're ready for whatever happens in the fall, because I'm sure it won't be a typical fall semester like we would like it to be, but I'm confident our team can do the same thing again in the future, rise to those challenges that we have next fall. And lastly, I just want to touch on something that Joe had spoken about early on in the evening. Something that we're all kind of experiencing together and seeing in our country right now, the incredible show on the streets in many urban places and throughout our country, people kind of standing up and standing up to racism, standing up to some of the social structures that we have that tend to favor some people over others. One thing that I've kind of reflected on, that kind of is easy to forget in our current environment. There are still people alive today that weren't allowed to go to school with other people because of the color of their skin. So even though it doesn't seem like it seems like that was a long time ago, there are still people who are alive that experienced that. And I have to say that I'm proud of our school as well, that we're able to include people from all different walks of life, that we're able to treat those people as equals, hopefully, in our school system, and that they're all comfortable coming here. Education is a great equalizer. So for us to be able to provide an education to anyone who's welcome or anyone who's interested in coming through our doors and providing a welcome environment, I'm glad our school can do that and our community can do that. And I'm looking forward to, continuing that tradition in the fall as well. So thank you. And I'll mute myself now.
All right. Colleen.
Let me make sure I'm unmuted here. My computer is moving very slowly. There we go. I definitely want to echo everything that Mike just talked about. We have former Lakeshore students who are leading marches of solidarity in this community, and I think that's something that we can be really proud of, and also inspired by, that we have students who are, have grown into these global citizens that we're looking to produce and really stepping in and leading. So I'm glad that, in addition to that, we're having these community discussions and making equity and inclusion the centerpiece of those. I think that's incredibly important and necessary, and it's a great idea, and I'm glad that we're doing it. Echo everything Josh said about the budget. Despite all the challenges that we're facing, this is clearly a people-first budget. I think that's something that we should always strive for. I'm happy to see that come through again. And then, of course, just, congratulations to all our retirees and to teachers that made tenure. I hope everyone has a fantastic summer and that we'll be able to get back together some way, shape, or form in the fall. Thank you.
All right.
Okay, I am on. Well, I do agree with the sentiments that the rest of my fellow board members have made. I just want to say congratulations to teacher mom and teacher dad. Thank you for finishing the school year out for us. That weight is lifted off your shoulders, so now you can enjoy your family as a family. So please try to do the best you can to enjoy time together this summer, because again, coming back fall, it's time to go back to work. My kids know, I say it all the time. I'm sure they'll roll their eyes if they hear it. School is work, and it's what the kids have to do. And we hope that our teachers will be there to inspire them and be able to get them back to work. So again, enjoy your summer, enjoy family, play games, sit by a campfire, and always, always, always be kind.
They probably were meaning to boot me out.
Okay, sorry about that, everybody.
I did, I
got
was-
booted out of the meeting, so I moved over to Dr. DePonio's computer. But I'm gonna look at mine for some notes. So I wanted to share a little bit about our graduations as well. So we've done about 150 mobile graduations and attended by various administrators, board members, student representatives. Each one has been unique and memorable as much as the individual graduate is. From the smallest gathering of just one graduate and his dad, which was like glowing with pride, to larger groups that had banners, stages, decorations, from smiles to tears. All of the students and families have been so appreciative and expressed so much appreciation for the effort that the district has made. It really has been a pleasure for me to participate in as many of those as I could. And that it's just, board members have always said that graduation is like one of our favorite days. It is awesome to be able to stand there and typically be on stage and see the kids come through and hand them their diplomas, shake a hand. This obviously has been unlike any other, but it's been incredibly pleasantly different. So intimate to actually share that experience with the families so up close and personal like it's been. So it has been amazing, and I'm so glad that our community has embraced it. And I appreciate everybody in district that has spent a lot of time on our, on the buses around town, hitting all these houses over several weeks. So it's been really, really good. The board sponsored back a little bit earlier in this whole COVID experience, we sponsored a Be an Inspiration contest for our students. And the winners are going to be announced soon. And I just wanted to thank the board members because they did put up personal contributions for our student awards for that contest. So that'll be forthcoming, and I'm sure there'll be some announcements on social media. And then kind of going back to the beginning of my comments, and I know that we had some audio issues at the beginning, but I did want to recap with when we look back on what the 1920 school year looked like, reflect on how Lakeshore Schools rocked our performance in 1920 school year. My office has a whole bunch of inspirational quotes on the wall, which used to serve me well, but I haven't been there in 3.5 months. But there was one quote that I just had in my head that seemed fitting. So it was actually something my manager said at one point, and I wanted to share this with everybody. So, be in a hurry to do nothing. And I thought, you know what? We are always in a hurry to do a lot. The to-do list never ends. It's one thing after another. And before you know it, you haven't taken time for certain things or relaxing things or maybe family things, whatever those issues are that get squeezed out by the giant to-do list. So my challenge to everybody for the summer of 2020 is to be intentional about relaxing and enjoying some summertime. So with that, thank everybody for being here and have a great evening. All right, a motion to adjourn, please.
So moved.
Support.
And we'll go with all in favor.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Good night, everybody. Thank you.
He's got to use them for his next spell.
Next.